Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and I'm going to demonstrate a trade here if we get a trigger. Notice we had the channel working down. We had the break, two legs down to a one tick trap new low, and then we've been rallying out of that. We had this range yesterday, and you can see we're kind of at the lower end of that range, and here this line I have across here is the higher end of that range. And let's see if this will trigger right here. This will be a second entry long. You got a first entry here. And if it breaks above this, it'll be a second entry long. It's been a really good trading day. Let's see if we can get this trade. Notice I'm waiting for it to trigger. Then I'm going to drop a limit order in here if it triggers. I'm going to demonstrate how I do this. And we may get left behind doing it that way, but I like that idea a little bit better here. And the trade may not trigger. We just have to kind of wait and see. But that's why we don't try to sneak in early. I mean, a lot of people try to sneak in on this bar when this one was about to break above, and notice it didn't break up there yet, so the trade is not triggered. So there's no trade trigger here yet. Here we go. There it goes. All right, I got my limit. All right, I'm filled. Notice how I did that. I waited till it triggered, and we'll see what it does here. But I waited for it to trigger, and then I dropped the limit order, and see, I could have even got a better one tick better entry than what I got there. And we hope I didn't get trapped here. I believe I have the right trend line coming up through here. And it might even be a little bit lower, so I may be a tad early. So I'm going to give this a little bit of room here. I'm not going to tighten my stop yet. I'm going to give it a little more room before I do. Just because I might be a tad early here. But it seems to be finding resistance right off of those closes right there and right up through there. All right, here we go. It's finding resistance off that EMA there. We did slip back down. And while I'm waiting on this let's talk about that EMA. A lot of people think that just because the EMA is, we get prices below the EMA, we don't go long. And I get that all the time. So people get confused on that. The ruling with the EMA is it's where the majority of your bars are. And I noticed coming up through here since probably for the last 45 minutes, most of your bars are above the EMA. Prices will swing, come below the EMA at times, and generally that's the first time you get below. That's the first signal that you may be getting close to a high, but not necessarily. And notice coming down through here, prices got above the EMA, but notice where the majority of the bars are, and so the trend is down, and so that's what we're looking for. And I'm going to scalp out of 8 of these, and then I'm going to try to save 2 for a runner to see if we make another high up here, and I'll show you how I manage that runner. Here we go. I'm going to go ahead and tighten my stop now. I'm going to put it 2 ticks below our signal bar, which this was our signal bar, and this is a second chance to enter here. If you haven't entered yet on a second entry, counting off the low. And notice we got that little double bottom with that 1 tick trap there. And so we got a nice little trap down here if they didn't trap us to the long side. But that's why I'm tightening my stop now, because if it turns back down now, that's not probably not a good sign. Doesn't surprise me that we're pulling back a little bit and giving some more people an opportunity to enter. But prices should not go below that double bottom if we've read this right, unless they're going to trap some more, unless they're going to try to trap the aggressive traders out, which usually doesn't happen. So here we go. Come on. We need 2 more ticks from where we've been. Maybe 1, depends on how early we were in the queue. But that's the thing about using the strategies, is you get in the queue early a lot of times, and you don't always have to tick through. There it goes. It ticked through. We're out. I'm going to move the stop to, I'm going to give this one, I'm going to use 1 contract to give this some room. We entered at 43, so we'll give this to 42. So I'm going to use 4 ticks or one of my contracts to give this some room to see if we can catch these 2 runners here. But you see how he scapped out. I snuck in a little bit early there, maybe a tick early. Notice we've really kind of got 2 legs down, but I found the trend line off the highs. Let me show you that. And I drug it down across those closes on the lows, and that seems to be it. We did get that one little trap there, so that's a good thing if we get this thing moving on up here. And we may not go anywhere. We may get congestion here and we may come down, but I'm willing to give one of my contracts. We got $400 in the bank basically now. If we get taken out on this, we'll make about $350 on this trade, but if we can get our runners going here, we'll do even better. Notice we ended up with a little bit of congestion here, and this is kind of acting like a little breakout pull back long. Let's see if we can go higher. Really struggling to go higher here. We're getting a lot of resistance. But I still like this to the upside. We may get our break of the trend line here. We did have an overshoot, and a lot of times that's a signal that you're going to get a break of your trend line. And so and we may get stopped out on this. Let's see what happens. You can still see the trend line is giving us a little bit of support, but they're trying to work it below it. If we've got a good entry here, they should protect these lows. A lot of times I like to give it 2 ticks because they'll drop it down there and get that 1 tick trap. Let's see how this bar ends. So now we've got a failed second entry short. So now I really like this to the upside. And you see right as that bar ended, they closed it on its high. So another chance to get in here if you're not in yet. Notice the trade triggered for a failed second entry short. But it's still finding a lot of resistance there, trying to fight it through. But I like the way that's set up. We'll see what happens here. They've got them trapped counter trend, so that's in our favor. Here we go. We're trying to go higher now, but notice we had that little double top right there, and you're going to find some resistance there probably too. Let's see. We'll see how this bar ends. People always ask me when I want to scratch out, and it will depend on this bar right here. If this bar ends as a doji, I may scratch out with our runners. But here we go. Now we're moving. And I'll be shocked if we don't move on up and make a new high here. My guess is we're probably going to go up and test this. So now that we're getting some movement here, I'm going to go ahead and Set this up here a little higher, and we'll kind of manage this trade as we go. There's one of those gaps we always talk about. But yeah, you definitely should have entered here if you weren't aggressive like me. And the reason being is, notice you got one tick lower, second tick lower, so there's a failed second entry short that's a trap. So we trapped a lot of shorts there, and you see it's going higher here. And it didn't look like it was going to go higher. It looked really, they had made it look really bearish there, and looked like it made it like they were trying to say they would have run me out if I'd have kept mine at break even. That's why I gave this trade a little room, because that's pretty typical of how they'll do you. While we're waiting to see what's going to happen here, somebody asked me about this short right here, but if you had your trend line drawn right and you saw this little bit of overshoot and then the double bottom, that's not a good sign. You don't want to be going short there on kind of a, it's not really a good setup bar on my chart either. He had a little better setup bar than I did. But on this one, I would wait, because there's a good chance you might get a trend line break on this, especially with that double bottom right there. But notice what happened. We broke the trend line 2 legs down, and we made one tick to a new low, and we've been rallying ever since. So perfect setup. This right here was the trade of the day. I made my entire goal on this single trade right here. These runners ran all the way down to the low side of this channel, and that's where I exited. I exited right here, and I came within a point or so of the bottom of exiting on that, and you got a chance to enter again up here, and a second entry here with a little trap right here. So I mean, this was a beautiful morning. I'm gonna go ahead and mark those trades right here, right here, and then again right here if you saw this. And this one, you had to be a little careful. You had to use a limit order if you could, otherwise you couldn't take that one. Or it would have failed, I guess you should say. You could have taken it. But notice all the overlap right there, but you got the little trap, and then it started turning down. And let's just see, if you'd have went short underneath that, your entry would have been 37. So you had to, and see, you got just enough for that one to work. And so it still worked, but that trap was the ticket. So your entry was 37, and you needed 35.75, so you got an extra tick. But I used a limit order. When it ticked lower, I dropped a limit order in there, and I snuck in a tick earlier. So, but that's the 3 trades that I'd seen so far. You might have taken a long right here. I don't really like the setup. The first chance I saw to go long was this trap right here. And then, of course, this setup here, there's a couple of chances to get in there. And we'll see if this turns into a breakout pullback long. Because notice we did kind of get some congestion down here. But that's one of the benefits of entering early like I did, was I was able to scalp out before we really got the big, excuse me, and then I got a little room to play with mine here to see if I can catch a runner. That's a little more difficult to do. Most of you, that are new traders, probably should concentrate on entering with your stops for now, and keeping your stop underneath the signal bar by a tick or two. Let's see. You can see that trend line still coming into play here. They're really trying to turn this around. So I don't know if we're going to survive this one or not. Go ahead and color code all our stuff. And I've tried lately to demonstrate some runners, but I just can't ever seem to get one on a video. We'll see if either how do we run out of time, because we're at 14 minutes into this now. And so, you don't want the videos to be too long. And you see we're still good here. Now you got a breakout pullback long setting up here. But it's getting a lot more risky entering up here closer to this resistance area than it was where we entered down here. But again, I don't know if I really finished talking about the, let me finish this and I'll come back and talk about that. But this stuff works. You have to trust it. I mean, you know, you saw it. It was scary entering down there. You saw me with 10 contracts enter right here, and they made it look like they were going to take me out every time, but they never did. And that's the way they set them up. And they trick you, and you just have to trust what we teach, and you have to trust the rules and the setups. And if you do, most of the time they're going to work. Nothing's 100%. But most of the time, this stuff works. Eight to nine times out of 10, it works. And so if you just take them all, you're going to come out smelling pretty good at the end of the day. You may get some failures from time to time, but you'll even learn how to reduce those quite a bit. And we got a trap working here. We broke above that bar first, and now we're trying to break below it. So if we do, I'm tempted to tighten my stop, but I don't want to stop myself out just before it takes off. I'd really like to demonstrate a good runner here and show you how I manage these runners. But I don't know if we're going to get one. It wouldn't surprise me at all if we don't get another leg down like that right there, and there we go. I said I was willing to risk one of my contracts to get a runner, so let's see if we don't get a trap here. But the fact that this didn't take on off, now I'm not liking it so much anymore. You would have profited off either of these first entries here. Let's just see if we can get out of this one and break. Oops. Yeah, let's hang on. I was about to decide I was just going to take a break-even trade. Let's see if I could get a break. And I could get out break-even or even a little better here. We'll see how this bar ends. We'll let this bar, they're making it look like they're going to take it down, and now they're kind of looking like they're going to reverse it. So we'll see how this bar ends and make our decision after that. I'll still risk this one contract of my original profit. And sometimes you got to give a trade a little room. You don't want to take a 2-point stop on every trade, and this one's not looking very good. I'm going to see if I can get my, and I'll probably get out just before it rallies. Okay, you see, we made one tick on the, so we made another $25 there on the last two contracts. So we made $425 minus our commissions on that trade, and we can always re-enter here. So that's the way I like to play that. You know, if the trade's just not doing what I expected it, which I really expected this to run up and make a new high here, and I may not have the trend line quite right. It might have been right up through there, and we may have a break and trying to do a retest, and that may be all we get. So we'll see. I'm gonna let this play a few more minutes to see, and it looks like they are going to trap them to the short side again. Okay, I had a little bit of a interruption there, and you can see quite a bit has changed since the trade ended. Prices did end up making another leg down, a little larger than the original leg, and now it looks like we're trying to maybe make a retest. I feel pretty good that I've got this top of this trend line right, but it could have been this was the actual trend channel right here, and we had a break, and that was the best retest. But I wouldn't be surprised if I still don't have it right in here. and we come back and make a retest here. We'll just have to see what happens. But prices, it's Friday and things have really slowed down. You can see we've really slowed down now. Let's just put our, you would think that was probably the trend, but we probably got a channel right down through here as well, and that does look pretty good. We got an overshoot, so but anyway, I may not have this channel quite right. It may have been, oops, it always happens. It may have been more like that right there, and this could have been the break, the new high, or this could have been a break, and that was all we got was a retest of the former trend line. That happens sometimes on, you know, the shorter term trends, but it still looks pretty good there. We'll see if we end up getting a retest here off of this move back up. But nice trade demonstration. I can't seem to catch one where I get a good runner. I probably should have demonstrated this one, but I wasn't through trading yet, and I was through trading by the time I had this one set up, and I like to be done with my trading, so I'm not, it's kind of hard to concentrate on taking a trade and doing the video at the same time, and so I like to normally wait till usually when I like to do these trade examples is when I'm done with my trading, and I'm just trying, you know, it's much easier to record and set up without concentrating too much on, you know, meeting my targets and have I met my target and that kind of thing. So that's when I generally will do the trade examples, is when I'm done early, which I was, because we made a boatload of money off of this move right here. But let me just talk real quickly about the other trades. There weren't a whole lot of trades that I saw today, but the ones we had were really, really good trades, except for this last one. You can't call it a failure, but it turned out just to be a two-legged correction. Then we got the break of the trend line, and it looks like we're trying to make a retest now. But it didn't matter whether you entered here or here. Both of the trades worked enough for a scalp, and that's why we do what we do. We scalp out. And the last two times I've taken a trade example, they were great examples of why we scalp out and hold a runner, because if it takes on off like either of these trades did, you can still profit. But if it turns out that it turns down and doesn't go, you know, doesn't end up trending any further, we made our money. We still made we made our $400 off the original scalp, and we got one tick off the final two contracts. So we made $425 on this trade minus our commission. So we made a little over $400 on this on that trade. Didn't last very long at all. We were out fairly quickly. You know, you saw how I managed my stop. I wish I could have got a runner so I could show you how I try to manage the runner and exit when we reach the other side, but it just didn't happen on that trade. And you never know when you're going to catch a runner, but that's why you always hold them. If you try to pick and choose, you will always get it wrong. Don't ask me why. That's the laws of trading. So pick one way or the other, and do it the same way every time, and you'll get your fair share of runners. But let's talk about the couple of trades we had so far today that were really good trades, and then I'm gonna wrap it up. When I came in, it was around 7 o'clock, but I didn't really like these. There's a failed second entry long here, but this wasn't really a good time to go short in my opinion, so I wanted to wait and get a confirmed trend line, and we didn't get that till here. We had a pretty good move down. You could have drawn your trend line off those first two swings. If you and just to verify it, you drop it down here, it fits, or you could have drawn it down here first and then drug it up. You get the same thing either way. And notice this two legs up. It's a second entry short right there. Easy chance to get in. If you got in one tick below that, your runners were safe. And then there was a second entry short here coming off the highs. First leg down, pull back, so a second entry short. And notice that we went higher. What I did, I added on here. When we broke lower, I dropped a limit order about halfway in here, enough to get filled. It pulled back and filled me, and then it turned right back down again. So I had a double load of runners running down through here, and I scalped out on twice. And so really great trade. This made me a boatload of money. I exited where we touched right before we touched here. It went another point or so lower. Then we broke the trend line. This little overshoot right here was probably a clue that, hey, we may get a trend line break, and that should have been a good clue here. But this was too good a setup to pass up. It was, it was the first time we'd gotten back below the EMA. You figure you're going to at least come back up and get the break-even stops and things like that, which we did. But notice that this was a second entry short here. Another two-legged pullback, first break of the trend line. I went short below that little doji. It pulled back a little bit, but then turned on down. And then we had a failed second entry long here that trapped people. So you put your order one tick below that bar, but it's better to probably use a limit order on that to try to get an extra tick or two. Didn't matter either way you did it. It was a good trade. And then I didn't like the second entry long here because we weren't back to what I thought was the trend line, which I was looking at down here. And so I waited on this one, and it did turn out to be a short trap. Notice that short trap. And so there was where you want to go long. Really, there's no setup here yet. This was the first bullish bar, and we never broke above it. So, but then it broke lower and turned back up and closed on its high. That's where you want to go long. And again, this is one you could drop a limit order back in because it's a pretty good bar. You got to have a pretty good stop to get below that signal bar, which that's really your signal bar right there. So I used a limit order. It backed up a tick or so. Boom, off you go. And you got a great runner on this one. And of course, I filmed this, our video, or recorded this trade, so you know what happened here. We didn't get any runners, but you had a chance to enter twice, really three times here, here, or here. And all of them worked, easy scalps. And now it looks like we're trying to work on a retest. We'll see what happens. So, but I'm done for the day, and there will be no video tomorrow. So I'm actually going to take vacation, take my family to the beach for a couple of days. So we're going to take a long weekend here. And so no video tomorrow. I won't be trading. I'll be out of town. And we won't do this again until Monday. So I hope you have a great weekend. Hope everybody had a good trading week. This has been a really good week. It's been a long time since we've had movement like we've had this week. So lots of chances to profit. And, you see the setups. You see them work. They work over and over. And, you just have to, it takes time to learn to find the channels. All of this stuff takes time. You won't learn it overnight, but if you stay with it, you can learn it and you can use it to make money. And, I've had some good trade examples of why we scalp out and try to hold runners, because they don't always go where we think they're going to go. But yet we still make money on them. It's pretty good when you can enter a trade and it not go where you think it's going to go, and you still make over $400 on that trade. I mean, that's my kind of trading. That's the way I like to do it anyway. So there were some other entries in here, but those were the ones that were at the key entry points that follow our rules that we like to take, and most of them did pretty well today. So great trading day, great trading week. I hope it was for you. And if you're struggling, just hang in there. You'll get better over time, and you'll learn this stuff. And for now, I'm going to wrap it up. Again, no video tomorrow, so I will see you Monday. And this is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.